Chapter 4, Lesson 1 and 2, Fractions and Decimals. From Chapter 3, if you remember our place values to the right of the decimal, we have tenths, hundreds, and thousandths. So here we have 7 tenths, 7 hundredths, and 7 thousandths. Now in order to change these to a fraction, we would just put the 7 over what they're called. So 7 tenths would be 7 tenths. 7 hundredths and 7 thousandths. So both of these decimals and fractions are equivalent. They mean the same thing. And all of these examples are included in the notes that they were given before we started Chapter 4. So what we're going to be doing is changing a fraction to a decimal. Now there's 3 fractions that they should know by heart. They should have these memorized whenever they see them. Now I tell them to think of $1. And how many quarters equal $1? And that would be 4. So if you have 1/4, that's 1/4 out of 4. So that would be 25 cents. If you have 2 quarters out of 4, which when reduced equals a half, you have 2 quarters out of 4, which is 50 cents. But we don't want zeros, so it would just be 0.5. And then the last one is 3/4. You have 3 quarters out of 4, so 3 quarters is 75 cents. These 3 fractions here should be memorized because they might have bigger fractions that can be reduced, and they'll end up being 1/4 or 2/4 or a half or 3/4, but they can just change to a decimal without having to do any work. Now, when we change a fraction to a decimal, if possible, we want to change the denominator to a 10. So I can make 5 into a 10 by multiplying it times 2. And I have to do that to the numerator as well. So now I have 6 tenths, which equals 0.6, 6 tenths. Let's try one. Let's try 6/8. Well, I can reduce this. I can't change an 8 to a 10, but I can reduce it. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now I have 3/4. And 3/4 is one of those ones that they should automatically know equals 0.75. So let's take a look at some of these problems here. We have 7 tenths for number 1, which would just be 0.7. 6/8 we just did. 4/5. I can change my 5 to a 10 by multiplying this by 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. So my answer would be 0.8. 17 is just going to be 0.4. 14 would just be 0.3. 4/8 reduces to a half, which equals 0.5. The homework for Lesson 1 will be done in class. There's only about 4 problems, so we'll work on that in class. Lesson 2, here we're using same thing. We have fractions and decimals, but now we have mixed numbers. So let's take a look at number 3. We have 2 and 3/4. All we're worried about is the fraction part. We don't have to do anything with that 2, with the whole number. So your 2 is just going to come straight down and add a decimal. And then I'm going to change my 3/4 to 0.75. So 2 and 3/4 as a decimal is 2.75. Number 2, 1 and 3/10. My 1 stays the same, and then my 3/10 just changes to 0.3. And of course, number 1 is going to be either 0.5 or 0.5. Most of the time on the test, they'll have a 0 in front of it, but either way is correct. Over here, when you have a decimal, you have to change it to a fraction. Let's look at number 4, 0.17. This is read as 17 hundredths, so we still need to know our place value. 17 hundredths. So this is going to be 17 over 100. You have to reduce it if possible. This one you don't have to, but some of these other ones you might. Number 5, 1.2. The number to the left of the decimal, the whole number just stays the same. We don't got to mess with that one. So this is just going to be 1. And the 0.2, that is 2/10, because there's only one number to the right of the decimal point, so that's 2/10. Now you have to reduce it. It's going to be 1. That's going to be 5. So your answer for number 5 is going to be 1 and 1/5. Because you can't forget about your 1 that goes right over there. Number 6, 3.5. Your whole number just comes straight down. This 0.5 is 5/10. So I'm going to put that over 10. And of course, 5/10 can be reduced to a half. So my answer for number 6 is 3.5. By just looking at it, you can see that that's a 0.5, so you should know that that is a half. Now let's take a look at some of the homework for lesson 2. So here at the top, it shows you that when you want to change a fraction to a decimal, change the denominator to a 10, and that makes it easier. So here for 4/5, we times both the numerator and denominator by 2. We got 8/10, which is easy to make that 0.8. So let's take a look at number 2. 1.5, that should be easy. 1.5. Because that's going to be 1. That's 5/10, and when you reduce it, you get a half. Number 4, 1.6, or 1 6/10. So your 1 stays the same. Your 6 is going to be over 10. Then you have to reduce it. So your 1 stays the same. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So your answer for number 4 would be 1 3/5. Some of the fractions now. Let's look at number 6. 2/8. You can't change 8 to a 10. So the best thing to do is to reduce it. Two divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 1/4. And this is one of those that you should just know is 1/4 out of 4, so you have 25 cents, or 25 hundredths. Number 7, 14/20. Let's go ahead and reduce this. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 7/10. So your answer would just be 7/10, or just 0.7. And let's try number 12. 3 1/4. Your whole number just stays the same. Remember, there's a decimal point right here separating the fraction and the whole number. So 1/4, again, that's 1/4 out of 25. I'm sorry, that's 1/4 out of a dollar out of 4. So it would be 3.25. Hopefully this helps, and don't forget to use your notes to help you with your homework and any other questions you have.